Hello, Forecaster here again, and we are back for episode 144. And I have been crafting things in between episodes, as usual, getting the boring stuff out of the way. And I believe I have most of the components needed to finally finish this system. Also, I've noticed that there are two variants of this texture we see here. The basic machine texture, you can see that this one is darker, this one is lighter. Now, I'm not entirely sure why there is a dark and a light one. Might be a texturing mistake, or maybe it's intentional. I'm not entirely sure. However, we are now just about ready to start setting this up. So I have some stuff over there as well. You can see I've put up a wall of covers, but we're going to concentrate on this part first because this will allow us to get the reactor going and start burning away those fuel cells that I want to get rid of so I can put in the 4 new ones. So I have an RS latch. As you can see, it has 2 inputs and 2 outputs. Now these are paired. You can see that this output, or this input, is currently on, as well as this output. So these are a pair. These are off, so these are a pair. Now if I were to power this input specifically, if you power an output, nothing happens. I'm going to power both of them because it's convenient. These will turn on. This side of the gate will be powered now, and this side will turn off. So only one pair can be powered at a time. And that is how an RS latch works. And even if I pulse this side again, this is not going to turn off in the way a toggle latch would. And even if I just power the input, because the input is powered, it's powering itself. So we can use this to create a more reliable control system, which is what we're going to do. So we're going to take these levers down, collect our cables, and we're going to use some gates to achieve this. So we're going to put some structure pipes down, and we have an input here and an input here. So we're going to want pipes going along here like this. Now we're going to have, we can use red pipe wire in this instance, I'm pretty sure. Not entirely sure if, looks like I put that down correctly. So we can use a basic gate because these can interact with red pipe wire. And all we want to do is, when there is a red pipe signal, output a redstone signal. Now the only output we care about is this one here. And we are going to actually pull this along here. I was going to pull it along here initially. Actually, we can still do that, I realize. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of wire here. It's going to connect to this gate, so we can have this output redstone directly instead of having a pipe wire as a proxy. And then I'm going to pull this along here and down here, and then finally to this controller box. But I don't want these wires to connect, but I realize I have a strip here, a birch or spruce strip, I believe. Spruce wood plank strip, yes. So we can put that there to keep those from connecting, which doesn't really do anything because these two are always powered at the same time anyway. But it's more for looks. Looks a little bit nicer this way. So now we're going to configure this gate. And I'm not entirely sure what I want for the levels. But we are going to say when the redstone level is 15. Oh, right. We're going to actually move this, because this is a problem with the RS latch in this mod, because it powers the input. So the gate is receiving a redstone signal of strength 15 from here, from this wire. So we're going to put the gate on this side, and we're going to set that again, and you'll notice that it is detecting this level here. Now if we toggle this, we set it to gate side only. This means that since the gate is facing this comparator, it will only test the level on this side from the comparator. So it will ignore the input from here. But it should still output a signal. However, because this is level 15, which means that the tank will be full, I think we'll actually set that to 14. We then want this to output a red pipe signal. So it will power this gate, which will power this side. And that will turn this input and the top output on and turn these off. Now we can ignore the output from here because we don't need it. We just need this to turn off, which will stop powering the controller box. And then when the level gets too low, so we're going to say 2 perhaps, and again we're going to do gate side only, because while this will only output a level of a max level, which would be 15, we're still going to turn on the gate side only just to be safe. And in this case we want it to output a redstone signal of level 15. The level probably doesn't matter because we have red alloy wire here and the distance is negligible, so we could probably have it, yeah, we could output a redstone signal. That'll do. Because we have a fader, we can choose which level to output, but it doesn't matter. We just wanted to power this to turn this back on. So when the level gets low, it will power this side. When it goes back up and reaches 14, which will be a near full tank, it will turn the reactor off. So now we're going to test this, and conveniently the output is now on and the tank is nearly empty. We're going to set that, and we should see this start filling up. Now the rest of the system is stopped, of course, because we don't have a control system here. We still have this overriding gate that I set here turned on, which keeps everything off. I have been running it manually a little bit, but I noticed that if I don't sit here and watch it, pretty quickly things start to go wrong. Either when this side is on, the coolant runs out, or when the reactor is on, the tank fills up and then heat starts building up in the reactor and the failsafe turns on. But yeah, so filling this tank is actually going to take a while because the reactor is still fairly slow. I don't think we can tell what this is outputting. We do have an OR gate, so we could do something. This. Okay, so now you can see that the level 2 turn on So it's outputting a redstone signal to this block here and also into the comparator, but is one way only, so nothing happens there. So eventually we should see it get past level 2 and go to level 3, like right there. We can probably set this to level 4. So we can kind of track the level. And as you can see, even when the gate side only is off, there's no power level 4 because this is outputting 15. So these don't really matter. Huh. That doesn't actually detect this side when this is off. That's kind of interesting. So now we have level 5, and that's going to keep going up until it reaches level 14. So might actually want to have it at level 15. Maybe, because there should be enough room in the reactor itself for the overflow, because it's going to turn off the reactor and there's still going to be some coolant in the pipe and in the reactor on its way to the tank when it's full. So if we have it on 15, there won't be any room for it. If we have it on 14, there will be some room left in the tank that the remaining coolant can flow into. So we'll leave that for a little bit and go have a look over here. And over here we're going to pretty much do the same thing. And because of that, hey, come here. We're going to want to put the OR gate on this side here. And the only thing we're going to want to do differently, of course, is we're going to have the output go into this red pipe wire here, which is going to control the fluid hoppers. So we're going to have it set, I think. Let's see what happens if we output a redstone. Or actually, so this input is the off input. So I think what we're going to want to do is have, when there is a redstone signal like there is currently, we want, didn't put any pipe wire there, so we're going to want to power the red pipe wire like so. So now I can turn off this, or get rid of this override here, and this is going to keep the processing system from running. So when we want to turn the processing system off, we have to power this little wire down here, which we can do by having this output a redstone signal. But I realized that might also affect this gate, which might not be a good thing. What it could do is put a gold AND gate here, and then have redstone signal on gate side only power the red pipe signal, and then I can remove this. Fortunately, I had 3 gold AND gates lying around from some earlier episode. Right, so now we want an off switch as well, so we're going to want some more structure pipe that goes up here. And then we are going to want a gate here, which doesn't necessarily have to be on the down facing side. And I have some green pipe wire here, handily left over as well. I think I mostly made it for crafting. Same with the red pipe wire, actually, is also left over. So what we're going to want to do here is, when there is a green pipe signal, we're going to want to output a redstone signal to power this input. And finally, we're going to want to configure this gate here. And we're not going to want that. So what we are going to want to do is, when the redstone level is 15, let's say, and then when the redstone level is, say, 2, when it is 2, we want to output a plain redstone signal. So we can do something like that. And then we're going to say gate side only and gate side only. And when this is true, we are going to want to output a green pipe signal. So the green pipe signal is going to send a signal up here. It's going to turn this gate on, powering this input, which is going to turn off our processing system. When the level gets down to level 2, it's going to output a redstone signal, which is going to power this input through this wire, which is going to turn this output off. So this gate is going to stop receiving a redstone signal. So we'll turn off the red pipe wire. Now, there's one more thing that I want to do, actually. So we're going to take a normal gate. Now, this pipe is full of coolant, so we can remove this plug, and we're going to put a gate here instead. Now, this gate, we're going to say that if the tank contains less than 25%, we want to power the red pipe signal. Now, what this is going to do, the only tank adjacent to this pipe that this gate sits on is the center tank here that the hoppers pulled from. Now, if this gets less than 25% full of hot coolant, it is going to power the red pipe wire, which is going to tell these gates to output a redstone signal each, which will turn off the hoppers. This will ensure that if this gets too low, we won't get to the point where one of these will be inputting hot coolant into a heat exchanger, which, as I've explained before, will result in the steam generator not receiving enough heat, since it needs 200 heat units per tick, and each of these only provides 100. So we need both of these to run at the same time, which means that the center tank needs to have coolant in it to ensure that both of these receive the same amount, because otherwise eventually it's going to become unbalanced. So when this gets too low, we turn the processing off to make sure that that does not happen. So now that we've set this up, we will use this our final piece of red alloy wire, and we'll put a lever here, because this RS latch was turned like this when I placed it. We need to pulse this side to turn it on, and this will turn on the processing system. Now over here we can see, which I didn't notice before, you might have when I was facing this way, you can see that the hot coolant tank is filled up, and this has indeed turned off. So the reactor is no longer running because there is no space for hot coolant. And you can see there's some in the pipe, which I predicted. So we are probably going to go up here actually do have this at 14. We might have to turn it down to 13 then, because I would like to avoid having coolant in the pipes sloshing around, because, well, it's not very neat. So turning it off a little earlier should help prevent that. So now we should be able to turn this on, and we have an initial explosion. We can remove these, and now things should be running. And even though this is continuously emptying, this is going to keep it running until this fills up properly and gets to level 15. We're actually probably going to want it to be level 14 here as well, just to ensure that these don't fill up. But yeah, so we're getting 150 EU per tick, and we are processing fluid, hot coolant. Now, once this gets too low again, it's going to turn the reactor back on. So, currently, since the reactor is not producing coolant or heat fast enough to keep up with this processing system, since this is all automatic now, this is going to run out. And this is going to start to drain, which is why I put this gate here. Because when it does, this is going to stop the system and keep it from becoming unbalanced, like I said. And then once this tank fills back up again sufficiently, it is going to let some more heat in. Now, because we are not producing enough heat, and we are obviously draining a lot more power than we are producing right now, because the ore processing system is running, it's going to be a while before we can produce enough power to keep up. I think we should be able to do that once the ore processing completes, which is going to be slow because of the lack of power, of course. I might even want to make sure that, or disable the we also have these running. I don't actually need this, so we can turn these off. I want to make sure that this isn't eating power. Probably is. Although it is running, I might want to disable this pulling out for now. So I'm going to do this. Set this to leave one item per slot, and then fill this with cobblestone. I could also apply a redstone signal, but actually that might be better. Let's have this run enable on a high signal, so it means it's going to stop doing anything unless I flip this lever here. So even if I put this back to normal operation, it's not going to pull the or push the cobblestone out because it is off. So now when the rock crusher crushes a bit of iron, it is going to remain in the output. So, oh dear, we have a lot of iron ore. Might actually want to get rid of this. Let's shut this down. We can put these in here because they will stay in there until I flip this. So, and then the sorting machine will take care of them. Let's also pull these out to shut ore processing down completely. And this should allow power to start building up again eventually once a variety of machines have filled their buffers, namely this one probably will drain a lot of power to begin with. Our power storage over here should be completely drained. Yeah. So, but this will start filling up eventually, and now we finally have our new coolant processing system up and running, producing much more power than we did before. As you can see, I made a couple of electrical engines, put them here because I wanted some more power for my lasers and rock crushers. And this has run out of fuel. Don't think I actually have any more peat because I haven't replanted the automatic farm. Yeah. Ah, yes, right. There is one thing I wanted to do. This might not be a good opportunity or a good time to actually do this, considering our current power troubles, but there's a few minutes left of the episode, and I prepared in advance in an average counter, and this is a block from Nuclear Control 2, as you can see. And what this does is it counts how much power passes through it, how many EUs pass through it, and it will count and average these over a time period. So I've already decided where I'm going to put this. As you can see, I've dug up a cable here, so we're going to just remove that. We're going to cut power to our entire base, basically, for a little bit, and then we're going to put this here. And in my hand there, you can see that the face facing upwards. Oh, the air is really bad in here, apparently. It has a dot and two arrows pointing into it. That is the input, and if we face this way, the input is going to face this CSU here. Now I'm going to need to back to here to get some fresh air. Now if we right click this, we'll get an interface, and we have some lengths of periods here. We can have 1, 3, 5, and 10 seconds. Now this is going to be fairly static apparently, because this outputs 128. This has actually started to fill up. So it is currently outputting its max power, which is good, I suppose. Once various buffers have filled up, this value should drop, I think. Probably. So we'll have to come back and check at some point. Maybe once these have actually filled up. Although it doesn't seem to actually be filling up. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now the average is dropping because whatever was draining 128 EU per tick has stopped doing so, so we now have an average of 50. Looks like it'll go down even more. About 30, even more. So after a while, this should give us an indication of how much all of our lights, as well as the microcontrollers for the level display for the fuel tank or fuel reservoir, draw when the base is idle. This is going to obviously increase when ore processing is running, because ore processing draws a lot of power. We also have these electrical engines which draw a bit of power currently, because the rock crusher is working. They don't draw a whole lot though. How much do they draw again? Don't actually know if I can see that. I can see kind of how much EU or RF it stores. Doesn't show any production, which is probably a bug. But yeah, anyway, unfortunately, the time has come to end the episode. So, we'll be back in the next one, and I'm not entirely sure what we'll be doing. But we will check back on the coolant processing system, make sure it's running smoothly, and then we will find something else to do. Maybe if I have if the advanced miner over there is finished, I need to go recharge that probably. That's where all this iron came from, by the way. I got the rest of it. Still have some in my bag even, because I couldn't fit it all in the queue. My hopper's up here. But once that has reached the bottom, we're going to move it to a new spot and mine there. And it's probably going to be further away, so I might have to do something to get the items here, or at least put down some temporary storage for it, maybe some sorting. We'll see. But yeah, so I will see you in the next episode.